Topic at hand, football season's just around the corner, you know. Training camps have started up, so it's time for a little refresher on how to get in the game. The resale market's buzzing with activity for every event you can think of. And the only way to traverse it is with SeatGeek, the sponsor of this video. Let's get in the huddle and read off the play. X writes short tickets from red to green on a 1 to 10 scale. Y cross get a view from where you'll be sitting. All seats verified for authenticity. And the word tree snap the ball and save $20 off your first purchase. Got that? Call it the SeatGeek special. Ready? Break! But when the Saints go marching in, I don't want to be in that fucking number. It's a drab and uninspiring one. More of a tragedy than anything else. Probably self-inflicted. Like the wino stumbling down Bourbon Street with his ornate plastic drinking cup with whatever liquor he fancies. As you see him on the brink of blacking out, you ignore him, but he's a tragedy and cautionary tale all in one. He's a man who had it all but didn't know when to quit. And it's why he's in this state. Like that wino, New Orleans is a cursed franchise. A golden nugget sandwiched in between two heaping piles of dung. The early years were failure and pain. The 80s and 90s were especially failure and pain. Oh look, there's a championship that undid all the misery! And the punishment for it was more failure and pain. Some could say it was the bounty that needed to be paid for that ring, but that's too easy of a target. Kind of like Rob Ryan's defenses in the mid-aughts. That man should have a felony charge for wasting Drew Brees' prime. One by one, the seasons would pass with little to show but bitter disappointment. Yet miracles and beastquakes alone don't strike the source. Thing is, we know the exact moment this spiraled out of control. Go back a little over 5 years. One specific play in particular.
Quick snap. Brees. Pass is incomplete. No flag.
Ref ball heard around the Superdome. An eternal screw job and an uncalled defensive pass interference. Allegedly, the ball was tipped at the line or something? That's what the official ruling said, but it's really covering their ass. I don't get why Sean Payton was calling for a pass on 3rd down near the goal line when the game was tied, but he just wanted to go for the kill. The entirety of Louisiana wanted blood for this insult. As long as you ignore the fact that the Saints defense crumbled on the final drive to force a tie, and New Orleans had ball to start overtime, but it turned into a turducken served on a platter. Instant death for all of Louisiana, stunting them to the point of simply replaying their old Super Bowl win at local bars. To be fair, they only missed the equivalent of Hitler versus Stalin. This moment right here was the start of their downfall. You know, the Falcons never recovered from 28-3. The Saints never recovered from this. Did they get fucked? Yes. Is it an excuse for gambler's fallacy? Unfortunately, no. They've sat around angry and bitter at it. The only problem is that New Orleans no longer has the strength to be fueled by such emotion. It may have worked if Brees were still at peak form. What they ended up getting was the last breath of his great career. The dude was playing with his ribs destroyed and a collapsed lung in his final year. What the hell else did you want him to do? Yeah, he may have been the reason they lost their last chance, but you can't throw stones. It's the only reason the Saints were relevant for a long time. So with arguably the best player in franchise history riding off into the sunset, New Orleans was lost. They had a solid team, but without a reliable QB, there was no chance. Placeholders would have to be brought in. Mainly the previous year's apprentice known as Famous James. Set up a fine bakery cooking dubs next to Café du Monde, and they responded by tearing his ACL. That in and of itself destroyed their 2021 campaign. Injuries in general killed them. We're down to Taysom Football and Trevor Siemian. You aren't winning with those guys under center. Either that or the COVID wave that decimated them. The NFL forced them to play against the Dolphins down 20 men. Ian Bookett cashed in his interceptions for a free personal pan pizza. It was too bad that game was what truly cost them the playoffs. 2022 was the same shit. Some promise undone by life without a stable quarterback under center. Andy Dalton did alright in New Orleans, but he wasn't Drew Brees. Not even close. The offense was sluggish and it cost them a chance at the playoffs. Turns out when you rely on Pete Carmichael's carousel of bullshit, things don't work out too well. Although that could be for another reason entirely. Sean Payton burned out and stepped aside. After the calamity of 2021, I legitimately don't blame him. Saw the writing on the wall and left for a golden parachute in Denver the next year. Things aren't going well for him there so far. Can't exactly say I feel bad for him or the Broncos since they got the Kevin James stand-in. Instead of Peyton, regardless of how overrated he may be or not, his replacement was a generic coach template from Madden. When you think inspiration, you certainly think Dennis Allen. Said no one ever. And again, I don't exactly feel bad for New Orleans either. They did stake a major claim in the Deshaun Watson sweepstakes. He wasn't a Saint since he saw Brown. Man, did they dodge a bullet or what? To any outsider looking in, the Saints were done. Kaput. their best chance is squandered. Yet there's internal pressure to keep succeeding. Mickey Loomis has had a generational draft that's been bailing them out for years now. Those fruits are starting to age, but the hardest thing to do is quit while you're ahead. Why rebuild when you were so close to a championship a few years ago? Do you see how good Chris Olave is? Imagine him with a real quarterback instead of an aging red rifle. The problem is there wasn't much out there in 2023. Draftable QBs were out of their range and they didn't have the capital to get one. And Aaron Rodgers was gung-ho on the Jets. So what's the best one available in free agency? Derek Carr. He who got castigated for Josh McSnake Oil's failures in Vegas. Now here's the thing about Carr. I like him as a QB. I think he's a good one that can make a decent team playoff contenders. But he's nowhere near a guy who's going to turn them into a true Super Bowl threat. The only season he got close to that was in 2016. He got injured in that one. So you give a guy who's never won a playoff game at this level $100 million guaranteed because you think he's the answer behind center? You're just asking for disappointment. And that's what the Saints have been getting. Disappointment. Have they gotten more production out of the quarterback position since signing him? Sure, you could say so. Is it what they felt he would be? Absolutely not. The fan base is a barometer, they hate his guts. Unfair or not, Derek represents the ills of the Saints, preventing them from shitting or getting off the pot. Merely underachieving and pissing off everyone with his deficiencies. All you have to look for with that? The red zone offense. Peak Carmichael. Good fucking lord. Only a genius of his caliber throws a third down goal line pass to Foster fucking Moreau. Dude, Jimmy Graham's sitting right there, man. It's all he's good for these days. Use him! 4 downs to get 10 yards from the 25. Fuck it, deep routes every single time. 5 touchdownless trips in the red zone against Atlanta. You know how they love to shit on you guys, and that happens? No wonder the fans are pissed. Cool, sacrifice Pete Carmichael with an ironically bad play. It's only about a year too late and it cost them the season. The New Orleans formula is one of aggravation and agony. Have some modest hype to start out, then sputter out the gate, and do so with a significant chunk of self-inflicted wounds and fuck-ups. Get all but put on life support, and then, and only then, start rattling off wins in the final stretch to barely miss the playoffs. This sort of cycle does 2 things. 1, it prevents a team from accruing top draft capital. It forces them to rely on scouting and luck instead of picking the best players available. Punishment without any true reward. Secondly, it gives management and ownership a sense of false hope. All we need is 1 more year, they'll say. We have the talent to get there. We just need a few things to go our way. It's dangerous thinking, relying on elements out of their control like player health and rival misfortune. The Saints are Michael Thomas, one of the best in their craft in his time. And the injuries and setbacks undid him. Once he returned, Thomas became one of the biggest what-if scenarios in football. Racing to a bronze bust, but his wax legs melted by soaring too high. New Orleans is the same kind of anguish. Their undoing is slower, but just as painful. Kinda wish they'd go quick like Des Bryant did. The cries and defenses of the Saints have been many. They aren't facing the wrath of a vengeful Cap. They're in the weakest division known to man. Still have good talent on their roster, but that's the problem. They're skating by with little hope of being more than mid-tier. For any chance to be better, New Orleans needs another generational draft. And what are the odds of that happening again? Loomis's recent drafting record not that high. Some flashes of young talent, yet nothing that takes them over the top. And with Dennis Allen still coaching this team, I don't have the confidence that he'll be the one to revive this ailing patient. But what about skating through endless years of salary cap evasion? Thing is, they are dealing with the consequences, but not in the ways that you'd think. Cap hell isn't enforcing them to cut notable pieces, but in repeatedly kicking the can down the road. It's an agony of restructures and deferred cap hits for aging pieces. Cameron Jordan and Demario Davis are excellent players, but how much do they have left? Both are in their mid-30s. Jordan's already tapering off. And it's not just Michael Thomas, what about Ryan Ramczyk? Severe injuries may prevent him from playing again. Is this Alvin Kamara's last year as a Saint? Running backs tend to fall off hard in their late 20s. Could very well be a cap casualty. In the end, all they can rely on is a mid-tier car with some fancy tires and Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. Unable to splurge on pieces that will truly take them over the top. Even with the exponential salary cap increases, they're stuck, bargaining for smaller and smaller buys while being forced to let go of potential difference makers. Signing Carr cost them a shit ton of pieces on their defensive line. Past years cost them the likes of Teron Armstead and Marcus Williams. And this cycle will continue forevermore until there is either eternal mediocrity or nothing left to salvage. Self-imposed hell. It's one I don't envy. And we know what's gonna happen this year. Suffer embarrassing losses, then magically start winning at the end just to miss the playoffs. That schedule to end the year, it's all but assured. I'll be shocked if anything else happens. Maybe you'll put a bounty on it.
Crowd silent now, as opposed to when the Saints have the ball. Oh, look at this run! What a run! Marshawn Lynch still on his feet. Has blockers now. He's dancing his way for the touchdown.